Humans split the atom, walked on the moon, built technology smart enough to fix its own mistakes, and still ended up dying. Because of very small decisions, not because of a lack of intelligence, but because of too much trust in a familiar moment. It'll probably be fine. This video doesn't exist to mock the people who died. Every story you're about to hear is real, and every one of them is a very clear reminder warnings are not decoration. In this video, there are 31 stories, 31 decisions, and 31 outcomes where stopping for just 1 second would have changed everything. And the first story begins with a situation that every one of us has been in before. Story 1. Checking gas with a lighter. It was dark, no flashlight, no phone in hand, just a gas can, and a very familiar thought, I'll just light it for a second to see. In his head, this plan made perfect sense. The flame was small. The gas was probably lower down. Science seems fine. And if science wasn't fully on board, absolute confidence would handle the rest. The lighter clicked. A tiny spark flashed. And in that exact moment, every law of physics woke up at the same time. There was no time to rethink, no slow-motion movie scene. Just a clean, efficient whoomph, the kind that says, oh. So that's how that works. The lesson was painfully simple. Gas doesn't need a big flame. It doesn't need drama. Just one bad idea and one person confident enough to test it, just to be sure. Story 2. Crawling into a chimney to save time home renovation. In a hurry. And the long way around just looked annoying. That's when he noticed the chimney. Wide, straight, short. A shortcut with strong genius energy. In his head, the plan was very clear. Just climb down a little. The chimney's huge, an adult can fit. Kids do it in Christmas movies all the time. What he didn't account for was that a chimney is not a staircase. The air inside has no obligation to be breathable. An enclosed space is science's polite way of saying trap. He made it down a bit, then a bit more, then realized turning around wasn't as easy as imagination promised. Air started running out. Time started stretching. And the idea of saving a few minutes suddenly became a very long decision. The takeaway was darkly simple. The shortest path sometimes is the final one. Story 3. Cooling a fan with water. It was hot. The kind of hot that puts the brain into power-saving mode. And when the brain saves power, breakthrough ideas start showing up. The industrial fan was spinning at full speed. Strong airflow. Still not cool enough. And then a thought appeared, sounding very smart for about 2 seconds. What if we add water? So the fan got upgraded with a water hose. Air blew, water sprayed. Initial feeling, wow, that's cool. Next feeling, the floor is wet. Final feeling, no one had time to feel it. Exposed wiring, water spreading exactly where it absolutely should not. And the circuit completed itself like it had been waiting for this moment. No lightning bolt, no big explosion. Just a very short silence after a very bad idea. The lesson is ancient, yet somehow ignored. Every summer, electricity and water have never been friends. Story 4. Standing under it for accuracy. They were lifting something very heavy, the kind of heavy that makes everyone suddenly serious. While people were adjusting things, he made a suggestion that sounded extremely responsible. I'll stand underneath and guide it properly. In his head, the logic was solid. Closer means better visibility. Better visibility means better accuracy. And if anything goes wrong, surely he'd have time to move. What he didn't factor in was that gravity doesn't understand surely. It only knows one job, pull things straight down. And it does that job flawlessly. No breaks, no negotiations. All it took was a small slip, a rope going slack just a bit more than planned, a soft clink of metal, and the whole guide it properly planned ended faster than the sentence itself. There was no argument. No second chance. The heavy object fell straight down exactly where physics had decided it would from the start. The conclusion sounds harsh, but it's painfully accurate. Physics doesn't care whether you think you're standing in the right place or not. Story 5. Using a bare electrical wire to catch fish. The idea sounded very genius. Fish live in water. Electricity shocks things. So drop a live wire in and the fish will float up like instant noodles in boiling water. Perfect logic. There was just one tiny detail. Overlooked water doesn't know who the hunter is. Electricity doesn't read minds. It doesn't care if you're hungry trying to save time or taking a scientific shortcut. It only does one thing spread everywhere very fairly. So the fish didn't even get a chance to float. The person holding the wire got shocked first. Not the wow that startled me kind. The why is my entire life flashing by at fast-forward speed kind. Final result, nature wins. The fish keeps swimming. And the human learns a very expensive lesson if your idea sounds like it belongs in a cartoon. Don't try it in real life. Story 6. Pouring strong chemicals into a toilet, then leaning in to look. The toilet was clogged. A familiar problem. A quiet test of modern human pride. Instead of calling a plumber, he chose science. Not the kind you learn in school. The kind that goes, if one bottle didn't unclog it, 2 bottles will definitely unclog it twice as hard. The chemicals went in, then another kind. Because the more warning labels on the bottle, the more trustworthy it feels. The problem was, those chemicals did not get along. They started reacting. No noise, no warning. Toxic gas began to rise, in a very small space. And at that exact moment, a human made the final decision to lean down and take a closer look. Because curiosity is instinct. A few seconds later, the toilet was still clogged. And he understood one simple truth. There are some questions in life that you really shouldn't bend down to find the answer to. Story 7. Burning a wasp nest with homemade fireworks. It started out harmless enough. A wasp nest on the porch, some buzzing. That familiar irritation of who said you could live here. Instead of calling a professional, he chose a faster solution. And a louder one. Homemade fireworks. Because if you're going to make a bad decision, it might as well come with an explosion. In his head, the plan was flawless. Light the fuse, one big boom, no more wasps, no more problem. Reality, however, had other ideas. The firework exploded. The fire spread. Not according to plan, not according to imagination. The wasps came out. A lot of wasps. Wasps plus fire plus panic combined into what science would call a personal disaster. For a few brief seconds, he was running, swatting and screaming like someone competing in the Olympics against hundreds of venomous coaches. In the end, the nest was still there. The yard was scorched. And he learned one thing: nature doesn't need a complicated plan. It only needs you to be confidently wrong. Story 8. Swallowing a live fish to win a bet. It started with a small bet, in front of a crowd, a few cheers, a few phones already recording. He thought it was just a joke. One small fish. Swallow it fast. Laugh it off. Take the money. Honor intact. The plan sounded solid. Until the fish didn't cooperate. Fish don't read betting rules. Fish don't understand social pressure. And fish definitely don't want to be a prop for entertainment. Within seconds, the fish got stuck. A throat in panic. The crowd went silent. Laughter turned into, oh, someone call somebody. No one reacted fast enough. No one was filming anymore. And for the first time, everyone realized some jokes in life don't come with an exit. Story 9. Jumping from a roof to a tree to look cool. It all started after an evening of watching online clips. People jumping from roofs to trees, slow, smooth. Background music, perfect camera angles. He thought, that looks easy. A familiar roof, a tree right in front of him. The distance looked manageable. He stood up, chest out, did the math using eye contact and unfounded confidence. No measuring tape, no physics, just faith in himself. Then he jumped. The exact moment his feet left the roof, his brain sent an emergency notification. Wait, hold on, too late. There was no cinematic tree grab, no heroic landing, just free fall, very fast, very real, and very unlike the internet. People rushed over, phones dropped, the word cool disappeared, leaving behind one painful truth: social media gives you views, but it never pays your hospital bills. Story 10. Parkour on an apartment balcony railing. It started with a very motivational thought: I need to challenge myself. It sounded like the opening line of a podcast, or a caption about to get a lot of likes. He stood on the apartment railing, high, very high, but he didn't look down, because confident people don't look down. He trusted his balance, trusted his sneakers, trusted that his body understood physics better than a textbook. The first few steps looked fine. Cool breeze, a sense of freedom, until his foot slipped a little, just a little. but at this height a little is everything you get. There's no undo button, no second chance, no cinematic slow motion. Just the quiet moment when everyone realizes this isn't parkour anymore. This is gravity doing its job very seriously. And that's when everyone learns one thing: heights don't offer second chances. Story 11. Standing in front of a train to film a clip. It started with a very modern ambition. Make a clip that really hits, really close, really heart-stopping. The kind that makes people comment, "Wait, how is this guy still alive?" He stood in front of the tracks, camera already rolling. Good angle, decent lighting, heart beating in sync with the distant train horn. He believed he'd step aside in time. Plenty of time. Enough time to even fix his hair. In his head, the scene was perfect. The train rushes past. He dodges to the side. Slow motion. Tense music. Reality arrived faster than expected. Faster than reflex. Faster than blind confidence. Just off by a few seconds. But with a train, a few seconds is an entire lifetime. There was no impressive footage. No second take. Just one very clear lesson: a train doesn't care whether you're famous or not. And it definitely doesn't stop just because your content is about to go viral. Story 12. Juggling a grenade at a party. It all started with a very simple desire: to impress at a party, where people were already bored of old-fashioned things like talking and eating food normally. He wanted to be the center of attention, not with a good story, but with a performance no one would ever forget. He trusted his control, trusted his hands, trusted his confidence, and trusted that everything would be fine because it had always been fine before. The grenade went up, caught, up again, caught again. The first few rounds looked smooth. Some people laughed, some people clapped. Some people quietly took a step back. Then came a very small moment. One slip of the hand, just one. But for the thing flying through the air, one slip was more than enough. There was no, oh no, no chance to fix it. Just an explosion that ended everything. And one cold lesson: some things in life were never meant to be entertainment. Story 13. Testing a stab-proof vest by wearing it. It started with a very modern belief: faith in the product, a label, an ad. People online saying it's totally safe. He put the vest on, stood up straight, took a deep breath, felt reassured. The kind of reassurance you get when you didn't read the instructions carefully. In theory, a stab-proof vest is for protection. In reality, it has limits. And limits are usually written in very small text. And small text is very easy to ignore. He picked up a knife, not to attack, but to test, because testing sounds more scientific than reckless. The people around him went quiet. Curiosity turned into tension. Then the knife came down. Not fast, not hard, but hard enough to prove one thing: the vest is not magic. Confidence is not armor. And safety equipment is never designed to be a live demonstration in front of an audience. Story 14. Making a DIY bungee jump cord. It started with a very admirable goal: saving money. Because why pay for professional bungee jumping when you have rope a tree and unlimited confidence? He measured the rope length himself. By eye, by life experience, and by the classic phrase, "that should be enough." No one asked enough for what he didn't calculate: elasticity. Because elasticity sounds like physics, and physics has a habit of ruining the fun. He tied the rope, took a deep breath, jumped. For the first moment, everything looked cinematic. Wind screaming, body falling, heart following behind. Then the ground showed up faster than expected, faster than confidence, faster than the phrase "wait." The rope was still deciding whether it wanted to stretch or not. There was no bounce back, no applause, just a very collective silence. And one very clear lesson: physics does not care how much money you thought you saved. Story 15. Making fireworks in a closed garage. It started with a very respectable research mindset, just an experiment, inside a garage, doors closed, no wind, no problem. He wanted to see what homemade fireworks looked like, not in the sky, but right next to his car, and a few old storage boxes. Because science doesn't need open space, it just needs passion and optimism. He forgot one tiny detail, very tiny: ventilation. The fire appeared, light flashed. The air began to tense up literally. Pressure built, very fast, faster than thinking, faster than the phrase, "it should be fine." And then everything ended with a boom that was not festive at all. No dazzling display, no audience applause, just a wrecked garage and one very clear lesson: enclosed spaces are not meant for fire. Story 16. Pulling an ATM with a chain. It started with a very mechanical thought. My truck is strong. The ATM is stationary, so this equation is basically solved. He trusted horsepower the way some people trust fate. Trusted the steel chain because it looked serious, and trusted that physics would respect confidence. The chain was hooked. The engine roared. He stood pretty close, because standing far away means missing the moment of glory. He hit the gas. The chain went tight. For exactly one breath, everything looked like a video about to go viral. Then the chain remembered its true nature, not to pull, but to store energy, and snapped back like a boomerang with an engineering degree, very fast, very straight. The ATM didn't move, not even a little. And that's when he learned a painful truth: elastic force doesn't care how strong you are. It only asks one question: where were you standing when it snapped? Story 17. Climbing a power pole to steal electricity. It started with a very money-saving idea. Electricity is expensive. The power pole is right there. So why not take a little? He wanted free electricity. The kind of free that makes the bill wonder what just happened. The problem was he didn't understand high voltage, didn't understand safe distance, didn't understand that electricity doesn't need you to touch it to prove a point. He climbed up, confident, very confident, like leveling up in a video game. Then the air suddenly got serious. An arc flashed. No warning sound, no countdown. Just a fast burst of light and a brief moment of, oh. So that's how it works. No wire was cut. No free electricity was gained. Just one instant lesson: electricity doesn't need contact to cause damage. And it definitely doesn't offer discounts to people who think they're smarter than physics. Story 18. Using a plastic bucket instead of a ladder. It started with a very familiar thought. I'll just stand on it for a second. No need to grab a ladder, no need to prepare. Just a plastic bucket sitting right there. He trusted the bucket, trusted his body weight, and trusted that balance is a built-in human skill. The bucket went down. He stepped up. Everything looked fine for exactly one moment. Then the bucket remembered it was born to hold water, not replace construction equipment. It slipped, very slightly, but enough. Balance vanished. The body reacted slower than the thought, and the thought was mostly, oh no, there was no heroic save. No one close enough to catch him. Just that very specific sound of a household mistake being made. In the end, lying there, he understood one thing: temporary solutions feel convenient. But sometimes they're also the last solution you ever needed to use. Story 19. Crawling into a machine while it's still running. It started with a very efficiency-driven thought. I'll just fix it real quick. No need to shut the machine down. No need to cut the power. Just reach in and adjust one small thing. Very professional. Very time-saving. He trusted that the machine understood context. Trusted that it would wait. Because a human was busy. And humans obviously mattered more than procedures. The machine was running. A steady, familiar sound. Everything looked fine. Until the machine decided to keep doing its job. No malice, no emotion, just function. The system reactivated right then. No warning, no countdown. Just the sudden realization, oh, I should have turned it off. People rushed over. The emergency stop was hit. Too late for the confidence from earlier. And that's when everyone learned one very clear thing: machines don't have a concept of just a second. They only know how to work. Story 20. Poking a bear to connect with nature. It started with a very positive idea. Connecting with nature. Sounds like a caption that's about to get a lot of likes. He believed bears were gentle. Because online bears eat berries. Bears roll around. Bears look like breathing teddy bears. He moved closer. A little too close, then a little closer still. By human logic, it hasn't done anything yet, so it's probably fine. The small detail he forgot: this wasn't a pet. This was the bear's territory. And bears never took an emotional communication workshop. When poked, instinct kicked in immediately. No thinking, no discussion. Just a very clear response of you are standing in the wrong place. In that moment, the idea of connection disappeared. So did the caption. Leaving behind one simple lesson: nature doesn't need you to understand it. It just needs you to leave it alone. Story 21. Hugging a python to prove it's gentle. It started with a very human urge to prove something in front of other people. That he wasn't afraid. That he understood animals. That this python was totally gentle. He hugged the snake. Very confident, very careful. The kind of hug meant for a photo and a future post. People held their breath. Someone took a step back. Someone else started mentally dialing an emergency number. The problem was the python doesn't use social media. It doesn't need to prove anything. It only follows one thing: instinct. And that instinct is very clear. The body coils, the pressure increases, not fast, but firm. The smile disappears. Confidence follows right after. The hug stops being a demonstration and turns into a situation with no exit button. No one knows how to undo it. No one is filming anymore. And that's when everyone understands belief is a beautiful thing. But instinct is always much stronger. Story 22: Climbing into a dangerous animal enclosure. It started with a very confident thought. That one's been tamed. There were warning signs, staff on duty, a fence. And in his logic, if there are that many layers of protection, then the inside must be safe. He ignored the barrier, because barriers are for people who lack confidence. He stepped in, slowly, calmly, like he was visiting a museum exhibit. The problem is, animals don't read information boards. They don't understand the concept of tamed, and they definitely don't care how good your intentions are. The moment distance disappeared, instinct switched on. Very fast, very real. The accident happened before he could even fully realize he had completely misread the situation. There was no heroic moment, no timely apology. Just one very clear truth: the fence isn't decoration. It exists because someone before you thought the exact same thing. Story 23: Picking a fight with a bison. It started with a very human kind of confidence. The kind that comes from having two hands and winning a few arguments online. He looked at the bison. Massive, heavy. Muscles like they were designed by someone who actively dislikes humans. And he thought, it can't be that bad. Because in his head, every opponent starts on equal footing. He stepped forward, squared up. Might have even raised his hands in a gesture that meant nothing. The bison didn't react right away, not out of fear, but because it was deciding whether the thing in front of it was a threat. Then it decided. Very fast, very final, no round one, no exchange of moves, just an ending that arrived almost instantly. All that confidence disappeared in a single moment. And that's when everyone learns one thing: some opponents in life don't need you to prove anything at all. Story 24: Riding a crocodile like in the movies. It all started after watching one too many action films. On screen, the hero jumps onto a crocodile's back, hangs on, smirks. The music swells at just the right moment. He thought, yeah, that's probably how it goes, because movies never lie. He had no skills, no training, no plan. Just confidence louder than knowledge. He moved closer to the crocodile. Very close. The kind of close that assumes it probably hasn't noticed yet. The problem is, crocodiles notice fast. There was no slow motion, no cinematic angles, just an instant reaction, clean, real, and extremely uncinematic. In that moment, every illusion disappeared. No director yelling cut, no stunt double jumping in. Just the classic real-life lesson movies have insurance. In real life, you are the lead actor. Story 25: Sticking your head into an elevator shaft. It started with a very polite intention. Calling someone below, asking one quick question, getting it over with. He didn't check whether the elevator was operating, because in his head, elevators are the kind of thing that wait, that listen, that understand human communication. He leaned down, stuck his head into the shaft, shouted. The echo sounded impressively professional. Everything seemed fine for exactly one moment, until the elevator decided to do its actual job. No emotion, no hesitation, no interest in what you're explaining. The accident happened so fast, no one had time to say, wait, hold on. No slow motion, no chance to apologize. Just a very collective silence, and a few people staring at the ceiling, wondering why something like this had to happen to remind everyone of one basic truth. Elevators don't wait for you. And they definitely don't wait to hear you explain yourself. Story 26: Sitting on a vending machine. It started with a very modern tragedy. The snack got stuck, right behind the glass, clearly visible, completely unreachable. He believed this was a problem that could be solved with shaking. Shake gently. Nothing. Shake harder. Still nothing. Because in movies, shaking always works. He shoved the machine. It rocked. The snack didn't fall. His frustration rose faster than the price of junk food. So he escalated. He climbed up and sat on top of it, full body weight, because weight usually forces things to cooperate. For one brief moment, everything went quiet. Then the machine started to tip, slowly, not rushed, like it was carefully considering its choices. And then, it fell, completely. There was no snack victory, no satisfaction. Just a vending machine on its side and one very clear lesson: a vending machine is heavier than your anger. Story 27, running into a storm to take photos. It started with a very artistic ambition to capture a unique shot, so unique that everyone would ask, "Wait, are you okay?" He ignored the weather warnings, because warnings are for people who lack faith. Phone in hand, composition in mind. Outside, the storm was working full time. Wind blowing sideways, waves crashing straight in. The sky fully committed to the drama. He stepped out, picked the perfect money spot, adjusted the angle, adjusted the focus, squinted, told himself just a few more seconds. Nature heard that and decided to respond immediately. The wind won first, the waves followed. Everything happened faster than an image could upload. There was no perfect photo, no filter strong enough to save it. Just soaked clothes, messy hair, and one very clear lesson: nature doesn't care about your angle, and it has no idea you're trying to make art. Story 28, driving into a river by following GPS. It started with a very 21st century kind of faith. Faith in technology, faith in satellites, faith in that calm voice in your phone that always sounds absolutely certain. GPS said turn right, he turned right. GPS said go straight, he went straight. No checking road signs, no checking the road. Because human eyes make mistakes and GPS never apologizes. The road got narrower, streetlights disappeared. The ground started reflecting moonlight. He thought must be a shortcut. GPS stayed calm, continue straight, so he did. The car went into the water. No hesitation, no software update, no error message. Just water rushing in fast and one very clear realization: he had trusted a small talking box more than his own eyes. The lesson was painfully simple. GPS is great at giving directions. It just doesn't know when the road has quietly turned into a river. Story 29, fixing a car propped up with broken bricks. It started with a very familiar goal: do it fast, do it temporarily. Get it done and deal with the rest later. He propped the car up with a few broken bricks. Uneven, unstable, but it looked fine. He slid under the car, because it was just a quick adjustment. No jack stands, no safety gear, because safety tends to slow things down. Everything stayed quiet for a few seconds. Then the bricks remembered that they were never born to carry responsibility. They collapsed. No warning, no negotiation. The car came down right on schedule for disaster. Metal slammed. Someone's heart started beating a lot faster than normal. The job ended immediately. Not because it was done, but because it couldn't continue. And that's when the lesson became very clear: temporary solutions save time at the beginning, but they always collect the full price at the end. Story 30, skipping the safety harness while working at height. It all started with the most famous sentence in the history of workplace accidents: just a few minutes. A few minutes doesn't need a harness. A few minutes doesn't need a check. A few minutes gravity will probably be understanding. He stepped up high with the confidence of someone who's done this many times before and survived every single time. A light breeze, a slightly slick surface. Not dangerous enough to worry about, but dangerous enough to matter. One misstep, just a little. So small he didn't even have time to regret it. The foot slipped. The hand reached out. No harness, no backup, no contingency plan. Everything happened faster than the thought I should have clipped in. In the moment that followed, everyone learned one very clear thing: accidents don't need you to be free. They don't need you to be ready. And they definitely don't wait for your just a few minutes. Story 31, ignoring a danger label in a factory. It started with a very familiar attitude. It's probably just for show. Red label, big letters, lots of exclamation marks. Very dramatic. And to him, dramatic usually means exaggerated. He didn't read it carefully, because reading instructions is for people with less experience. He connected the system from memory. And memory, when confident, is very convincing. One connector was wrong, just a little. But in a factory, a little is a full domino chain. Machines reacted, Lights started flashing. Sounds kicked in that no one ever wants to hear. A chain reaction followed. No asking for permission. No time to fix it. People ran. Someone shouted. And the whole "it's fine" atmosphere disappeared instantly. After everything settled, one lesson was left crystal clear: warning labels are not decoration. And in many cases, they're written with the painful experience of people who learned the hard way before you. Looking back at these 31 stories, the common thread isn't stupidity. It's a very familiar moment. The moment someone thinks it'll probably be fine. Not because they were bad people, not because they were foolish, but because humans tend to trust luck more than reality and underestimate consequences in just a few short seconds. Now it's your turn. Have you ever stood in front of a decision and told yourself, yeah, doing it anyway should be okay? If you have, share your near-miss story. No judgment, no mocking. Just a reminder of something very human: accidents often begin with the smallest moment of complacency.